having hot dogs with chili and mustard and cheese, and also have like some corn chips with some cheese on the side. Hi, how is everyone doing? I've been doing good. It's beautiful to be alive. And I also will be discussing about some things, also telling probably some crazy stories from my childhood. And yeah. All right, let's start with this hot dog. Want a bite? Have you guys seen the movie Scarface? I was just watching a snippet of it, of when Tony Montana had went to go visit his mother. His mother was not happy to see him. She called him a bum. His own mother called him a bum. It's like she didn't want to have anything to do with him. But I could see why she was that way. I mean, he was selling drugs and stuff. So, what are you guys eating today? And I'm gonna tell you the short story about what I went through in elementary school. He was this guy that I went to our elementary school around the time when I think I was like in the second grade. This guy kind of reminded me of Bubble Bath. You know Bubble Bath off of SpongeBob. The big green booger looking character with glasses. He kind of reminded me of him. He was a big guy who was wearing glasses, and around where we was able to go outside recess, he would be out there where we at. And I think around that time he was like a fifth grader, while the rest of us were like little second or first graders. And he chased us younger kids. He chased us around this track. We ran around the track. We either played with the outside equipment or we ran around the track. He was just trying to be a big bully on a playground. Chili good. And also in elementary, around when I was like in the like the third grade. Uh, no. Hold on. It wasn't at that school. It wasn't in elementary. It was in middle school. It was like around when I was like in the sixth or seventh grade. It was around near the end of the school year. It was like the last day of school where you could do whatever you want. I actually liked it that day because I don't think we could bring butt sacks on that day. Well, on the last day, we had to sit in the classroom and watch a movie together. Well, we sat in the classroom and we had to watch this video, and the teacher, the teacher, um, she was had left out of the classroom. She had left us in there by ourselves and had left out somewhere I think to go file some papers or something, and she left this one student in charge, which she shouldn't have done. She shouldn't have left that one kid um in charge of watching out for the classroom because what he ended up doing while we was sitting in there watching a movie, he ended up letting another kid in there. And this other kid didn't get along with another kid in this classroom. He had let that kid in there, knowing good well. that he didn't get along with that other kid. And when he had let him in there, it was on like butter popcorn. Those two guys had it was ready to rumble between them two. Those two guys had threw down in that classroom when the teacher was not in there. Just to think about it, it was in the sixth grade. I was like 12 years old around that time. It was crazy. Those two guys were throwing it down, and the teacher wasn't in there until some other teachers and people who worked in the office. The door was messed around, had got left open, and they seen those two guys fighting in the classroom. That's when they went in there to get help, to be a help. I got to eat the peanut butter and chocolate wafer cake. So yeah, those guys had got into it all because that one person had let it had was in charge of the classroom, which I thought was a bad idea. And another crazy story that happened when I was like, I think I was like in the seventh grade around this time. I was like 13 going on 14. And it was before I had to move to a different location. Around in the seventh grade, we was in gym class. And I remember sitting on the floor. I forgot I forgot what kind of exercises we had to do, but I remember sitting on the floor, just regularly sitting on the floor, doing a little bit of stretching. When out of nowhere, I heard some commotion not too far from me. It was like right across the other side of the big room. We call it the big room, but people call it the gymnasium. But right across the other part of the gymnasium, it was a commotion. I looked it up and saw this other guy who I know beating the crap out of this other guy. The other guy that had dived and jumped in on that one guy, I'ma just call his name um Lathan. Lathan beat the crap out of Jimmy. Jimmy got his tail whooped. Jimmy got snatched up, got beaten out of his shirt in front of all of us. And all of the girls, they were yelling and trying to pull Lathan off of Jimmy. I don't know how in the world that fight had happened, but it happened. Here's the second one. And what was confusing, excuse me, that what was confusing about being like around in the like sixth grade going on the seventh grade is that say that it was lunchtime. We had to go into the lunchroom and go sit at the table that we're supposed to sit at as a class. Or well, no, not really. We can sit anywhere you want to at this school, but at the other school that I had to move to, we had to sit as a class. But at this old middle school that I used to go to, we could have sit anywhere we want to. And what was confusing is that we had to hear out for like the name of the hallway to be called out. The name of the hallway that our classrooms is on. We had to hear it out, and then when the bell goes off, you can hear it through the intercom where they're saying hallway, I don't know, hallway D something or hallway F something. And then we have to go get up. Us ones who got a classroom on that hallway, we have to get up from our tables and leave out of the lunchroom to go back to that classroom. Well, my silly self was not paying attention. I ended up missing going to the hallway that my classroom was on and ended up in the wrong class. I ended up going with another hallway and ended up at the wrong time and the wrong period in another class. It was like the same classroom that I was in before. It was already another class in there. When I winded up in there with that other class and felt so embarrassed. And I also want to tell you one more story of this little girl's house that I had went over when I was younger. Got an apple. Well, this little girl, she lived it like right by my dad. It was way when I was younger. I had to been about like I don't think I was in well I was in elementary. I had to been like in kindergarten around that time. And the little girl was near my age, and her mom didn't live far from where I live. And I'm gonna just call this girl Kalita. Kalita lived not too far from where my dad lived, and around the time my sister was younger too. And it was me, my sister, and her cousin. We went over Kalita's house, and it was nighttime. And we all was sitting in this room area. I think it was Kalita's room. And in Kalita's room, we was whispering and talking. She had blankets and stuff. She wanted to do like a little sleep, not exactly a sleepover, but like I guess like a stayover or something, like us coming over. She offering us snacks and stuff. So she said she was gonna go and get some marshmallows out her mama's refrigerator. I think she wanted to make like s'mores and stuff. 'Cause she was talking about other stuff to go with the marshmallows, but she not just bringing back a bag of marshmallows. But right when she was offering us some marshmallows, her mom, out of nowhere, came in there, hauled off, and smacked it the crap out of her. Her mama placed it fire to her jaws because she went into the refrigerator without asking. She went into the refrigerator and got the bag of marshmallows for us without asking. Her mama smacked her so hard that I felt the smack. Juice rolling up. Which type of apple do you like, the red or the green? I think I like the green a little bit better. And this last story that I want to mention is about when I had ran across the real life Dennis the Menace. I don't know how old this little boy was, but he was a little bit younger than I was. He was shorter than I was. I had to been like around 11, about to soon turn 12. I was, small. And I was hanging outside with my sister and some of her friends and some of the neighborhood kids. Some of the neighborhood kids that I went to school with, they all would also come in our yard, to hang out and talk and stuff. And it was like these houses that we used to live in. Like it was like one house and then next to it another house, sort of like apartments. That's how it was. And I'll say like after the second house that was beside us on our left side, after that second house, the third house is where a family from New York City was living at. It was a family from New York City that were living in that third house. And they had one child. They didn't only have one child, they had a lot of children, but I know it was one child out of all those children that was bad to the bone. I don't know his name, but I'll call his name Khalil. Yeah, but out of all their out of all their children, it was this little boy named Khalil. And Khalil, he looked it like he was like around like 7 or 8 years old. I was like 11 around the time. And he came in our yard. He was kind of, acting, like a little boy. He saw the older girls, probably thought that one of the girls looked pretty, try to be playful and stuff, play and show out in front of the, the girls that my sister was talking to. And, the girls were like, laughing at this little boy by how he was acting. But what he ended up doing, he ended up going too far. And what he had did that had that he had did that was too far, he ended up pulling out and pissing in my parents' yard. Little Khalil went too far. He pissed it in my parents' yard, asking my sisters and them, do they want to see you know what? And they ended up pulling out and pissing in my parents' yard. And I end up walking up to him and getting on him. I would let him know that, like, hey, you don't be coming up in my parents' yard pissing. And out of nowhere, I ain't even hardly get like words out of my mouth. I was like trying to tell him, like, hey, you did not piss in my parents. But as soon as I start to say that, out of nowhere, he whack up, smacked the crap out of me. Now I don't know. He's a small child with a hard hit like that. He hit me like a grown person. Like he had a big hand for a 7 or 8 year old. Little Khalil had put fire to my jaws and left the side of my face red. And I went to go tell my mama and them. I went to go tell my mama and them on him. And I think my brother or either my cousin, I think my brother, he ended up picking this little boy up and carrying him back to his parents' house to tell him. She had picked him up, toting him over his shoulder and walking him over to where his parents' house was at, which was the third house, and telling his parents on him. It's a true story. He was the real life Dennis the Menace, in my opinion. Well, I hope you all have a great day. I enjoyed the food. The chili dogs was great, along with the corn chips and cheese. And hold on for just 1 minute. Wash it all down with some water. Hope y'all have a great day.